Not a lot, but I think I follow some of the thinkers who have seen and built large scale products. So Shreyas, I follow Lenny's podcast or something, and a newsletter I listen and follow, read through. Um, then there are some communities, let's say, for example, the product folks is a community where I interact with folks or somehow also join their sessions. If you are more into technical product management, there is this newsletter called Byte Go. That's an interesting newsletter. They come up with certain aspects in engineering side and explain it in a very easy to understand.
Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of Engatica's interview series. I'm your host Labbi Jugatar, and we are really glad to have you join us today. And today we have Ankit Gupta on the show. Ankit is a digital executive with more than 16 years of experience in building technology platforms and implementing product-first growth strategies. He has led product teams in Germany, Indonesia, and India, building in-house products for customer engagement, monetization, and data products like A/B testing, customer app and install, and retention tracking. Ankit was a head of products at Farmeasy, leading a team of product managers to drive growth and revenue for 3 business units. Welcome, Ankit. Before we dive into the interview, let me tell you what the series is all about. The Engatica interview series is a powerhouse of insights from industry experts and influencers from around the world. A platform that provides the latest news on AI, automation, and technologies that will help you grow your business. Come be a part of a community where we learn, share, and grow with us.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the introduction of the series as well as me. And it's great to be part of this podcast series.
Great. Okay, so Ankit, my first question to you is, can you share a case study or example of how you applied first principle thinking to improve customer LTV in one of your previous organizations?
Sure. So, an interesting question. I'll take an example from my experience at Myntra. I mean, in during my conversations, I will take more examples from Myntra and a few maybe from Farmeasy. But I think because I've spent and really love the product and was part of the journey from very small stage company to a very large company which you see right now. That would be my approach. Coming back to the question, I think for me, the first principle thinking is more about thinking about customers first. Like what will, whatever I'm designing, will customers use it? Will they benefit from it? Is there a specific pain point which I am able to reduce by building product features? Thinking about LTV, I can think about a few such examples. Let's take an example of so we built a feature at Myntra to promote Myntra's internal wallet. We call Myntra Credit. But the genesis was we saw that people who are using Myntra Credit as a payment method, they have better success rate, they have a higher retention, and we felt that okay, why we are not able to communicate this to other customers as well, that okay, there is a benefit of using Myntra Credit as an option. And we look at the data that okay, people who have historically used Myntra Credit, they are more loyal. People can also argue that it's a correlation thing. People who are loyal customers, they will probably use Myntra Credit more often, and hence the conversion LTV would be higher. But just to test this hypothesis, we thought we will plan a series of experiments or product features and test the impact on retention or LTV of customers. So we built 3 variants. In one of the variants, we just highlighted the benefits when the people were trying to, let's say, return or visited a cart, the gift card page. We would start highlighting much more disproportionately. The affordance of the benefits of using Myntra Credit were highlighted. So it's faster. The returns are processed faster. The payment success rate is 100%, and yeah, I mean, it can be used across categories. So that was the first communication. We tried that. Okay, let's promote this. Tell people, okay, there's a benefit like this. Second is we tried to incentivize user. We looked at the equation that if we give, let's say, 10% extra, people will eventually adopt this more. And we wanted to learn how much will it impact an LTV. Maybe if we give 10% extra, that option will increase and hence the LTV increase. Will the LTV increase be able to make up for the 10% extra which we are giving to our customers? So that was the second variant. And third was when people would come and return certain products, which is a huge number of products, almost like, I mean, I won't go into specific numbers, but you will read it on internet that, okay, any fashion e-commerce has returns, RTO, cancellation included is between 30 to 40%. That means a huge number of users, a lot of users are actually going to attempt to cancel or return the products. So we gave options to the user that, okay, when they are canceling or returning, if they choose Myntra credit as the default option. So instead of going and returning to source, we said, okay, by default, we would show users an option to take it in Myntra credit and also highlight the benefits. So we tried to run these three experiments and saw an impact on LTV. So the third variant, which I mentioned, gave the best results in terms of ROI. And that's went live, and I hope it's still live on Myntra's platform. So that's an
Yes.
example of we took a customer first principle approach to look at growing LTV without sacrificing actually on the bottom line of the company. So we anybody can say, okay, we'll give 20% extra and hence we drive adoption of Myntra credit, but that will impact our bottom line. So we run experiments to evaluate how much we can give extra effort to give extra to drive LTV. That's an example. Yeah, I hope people find it relevant.
That's very interesting. And just to understand this better, so how did you measure LTV for this feature?
So in this case, so there are two parts to answer this question. First is we launched this as a part of our internal A/B test platform. We had an internal A/B test platform called Morpheus, where we can launch experiments and choose a specific North Star metrics and on which the experiment will be evaluated. We always had a initially agreed sample size relevant for this North Star metrics. And we will always run experiments minimum of 2 weeks, irrespective of statistical significance. So these were certain guardrails which were in place. Now coming to specifically measure, how do we measure LTV? In this case, we are measuring it based upon the orders per user or numbers of orders a person is making on Myntra as a platform. And this was evaluated on test versus control. This was a North Star metrics. We also evaluated on secondary metrics. For example, in this case, secondary metrics were sessions per user. So let's say maybe they had certain bad experience or something. The sessions per user goes down. Then that's a red flag for us. The other secondary metrics included calls to call center. Maybe they were confused about the Myntra credit and then they're calling. So calls to call center was the secondary metrics. Revenue per user ideally should go up because LTV is going up. So these were all secondary metrics and which we evaluated as a part of this experiment.
Okay. And were there any instances where you had to trade off between two important metrics?
Yeah, for example, I mentioned, right? So I could have taken a higher weightage to LTV and a lower weightage to, let's say, the cost for it. So for example, this 10%, which I mentioned, can also be 20%, 30%, or 5%, right? This was a variable by design in a product experiment and product feature. And the key aim was that we should not be, let's say, reducing or increasing the burden on our bottom line. So everybody will suddenly start to opt for Myntra credit if we give them 20% extra. We know this because it's a free money. But we cannot take that call because that will mean that, okay, we are kind of buying the orders. Right. So, and we don't want to take that approach for growth or LTV. Then that's not the real intent. So that's an example of these defensive metrics which are in place. And we took the call that, okay, we will not go ahead live and evaluate what is the stable state. So we know that, okay, this is the kind of LTV or OPU increase we will get if we give 5% extra. This is the kind of OPU we will get if we give 10% extra. And this is the kind of OPU or order per user increase we'll get if we give 0% extra. So we knew all these three equations as a part of our experimentation. And we also knew that, okay, sooner or later, even if we agree to give 5% extra right now, there will be a steady state in future where we will only be able to get 0%. So we evaluated all these three scenarios and went ahead with the experiment and gave the flexibility to the business owners that at any given time you want to drive retention or this metrics, you can choose to invest and give 5% extra. And this is the expected outcome because we know historically this is what happens. So this is how we build and let's say roll it out and give the control back to the business team that, okay, you go ahead and play around it.
Amazing. That was very interesting to know. Okay, understood. So, okay, could you tell our audience that how do you balance the importance of data-driven decision making with the need for creativity and innovation in product design and growth strategies?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean that there are always these fights between PMs, UX designers, UX researchers, and sometimes business teams that, okay, what takes a precedence? And usually it's the PM who is in center of all these discussions. The business team on only business, UX team on only some UX related elements, and PM has to take a more balanced approach. So I'll take an example again from my experience at Myntra, and the team was designing a feature which we called accelerators, based upon some learnings from FMCG companies or travel e-commerce companies. You will usually see these elements. So if you take a bottle of shampoo or something, they will highlight these 3 or 4 bullet points. It includes, I don't know, paraben-free, organically, dermatologist tested, sourced from the best. I don't know if it's a mango drink is sourced from the best mangoes from Ratnagiri, something like this, right? So they will come up with these 3 attributes or some things which to highlight. Another example would be, let's say, if you go to travel website, they'll say only last hotel sold in 3 minutes back, or only 2 left at this price. We have reserved this price for you. So we studied a lot of these industries and created a framework which we called accelerators. And accelerators were divided into 4 buckets. So first was, let's say, urgency drivers, only few left, only 3 left. Whatever. Second was something like product attributes. In Myntra's context, it will be lycra, 4-way stretch, bamboo cotton, and things like these. Third would be celeb angle, celebrity angle. So maybe it's endorsed by Virat Kohli, Anushka, or some of the Hrithik Roshan. So that's the third category. Fourth category is what we call as something which is more related to sales driven. So bestseller. Top in this category. You will also see it on Amazon. So we created a framework for accelerators in these 4 broad categories. And when we are going live, we wanted to test how to visualize this, how to communicate this from iconography, colors. So should we have different colors for each of these 4 so that people can able to recognize that, okay, we are talking about product attributes and not sales driven urgency driver. Where should we show it? Let's say, especially it was more critical on list pages where if you see e-commerce, there is a limited real estate. And a company like Myntra, the imagery is a very critical part of it. So we said, okay, if we put a label, and there are 4 specific or 5 different places. So left top, left bottom, right bottom, right? Which one would specifically give us more impact in terms of a North Star metrics? In this case, a North Star metrics was revenue per user.
Right.
And the fifth one was next to the pricing point, there is also a fifth element. So after we agreed on certain guardrail, the text should not be more than, let's say, 10 characters long. Um, should we use all caps, or should we use camel case, or should we use sentence case? When we first agreed on certain guardrails, then we said, okay, we'll experiment on the positions and colors across these four positions or five positions and see the impact on North Star metrics and defensive metrics. So North Star metrics remains a revenue per user, defensive metrics, which will include CTR. Then there was also a qualitative angle. So everyone within the team would say, okay, out of their 100 products, how many times they are seeing a product where this tag is overlapping with the model itself. Because that was one of the softer goals we had, and it was difficult to measure it. So, for example, when you're scrolling, if the tag is too long, suddenly it will come and overlap with the, let's say, face of the model. And it will look very ugly. Yeah, it will not give the expected impact. And it's difficult to measure because sort order keeps on changing from person to person. That was the softer metrics we had, like within the group of our PM design, that we'll scroll and see what everybody sees. In what percentage of your scroll of 40 products, you are seeing a product image where this tag is overlapping with the model's image. If it's an only a shoe and this only the shoe first image is only a shoe, then it's fine. But most of the cases it's apparel. A model is wearing it, and let's say it's half of the face is covered by a tag. It will not look good. So this is how we tried to balance. So the first was obviously data-driven approach. Revenue per user should go up; it should not go down. CTRs, orders per user, conversion to wishlist PDP should go up. These were hard metrics. And then there were soft metrics, I would say qualitative feedback, that within the small group of people, they should be able to say that, okay, in X percentage of my 40 results of my list page, I am having 5 products where it was covering the face of the model, or only. So we put certain guardrail that, okay, and then agreed that, okay, top left is the one where we are seeing the best outcome of metrics, and in most of the cases it's not impacting the experience of the customer as well. So yeah, that's an example where we did extensive research, extensive experimentation. Out of these 5 places, which one works best, which color works. We tried, and within the guardrails of our design playbook. So Myntra's design playbook would have certain fonts, certain colors, and certain colors can only be used in certain formats. So for example, there is a shade of pink that can be used there. There's a shade of green which can be used there. But I certainly cannot ask them to use orange, because as per the design language, orange is supposed to be used on a specific kind of situations only.
Correct.
So within those realm of guardrails, we said, okay, we'll experiment these 5 positions. This will be our data point on which we will agree. And we will also take care of the softer elements of human, that, okay, it should not overlap with the imagery of the model. So that's an example where after a lot of deliberation, both metrics driven and qualitative feedback, we agreed on certain um, product experiments and then we went live with one successful experiment. Right now, I think it's a pink color shade with a triangle.
Yes.
So ribbon, and also I think, yeah, that's how this feature was experimented and built during my tenure.
Good to know the background of what I actually see on the applications. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting journey. We tried so many things. Like, for example, Amazon uses something like a yellow color there. We also experimented that, okay, but somehow it was not going well with that slightly yellow, dull yellow kind of color. It was not going the design language of Myntra, so we excluded it. So yeah, that's an example where we try to balance out between growth, product versus UX driven feedback which we get for features.
Wow, that's amazing. Great. Okay. So now, could you discuss a specific challenge you faced in developing a product-led growth strategy and how you overcame it?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's again an interesting one. I specifically led a product-led growth at Myntra. It's a comparatively a new and emerging area where PMs are also given certain responsibility to drive business metrics, and that's what I led at Myntra. So I can think of two key challenges. First one was that month after month, quarter after quarter, how do you keep coming up with new product features which fit well in your RICE model, right? This reach, impact, confidence, and effort. So
Yes.
months on months, quarter on quarter, how I keep on coming up with these low hanging fruits, which have low effort, but I have high confidence, high impact capabilities, right? So after a
Right.
certain time, there are only limited screens and limited places where you can experiment. So how do you keep coming up with solutions, looking at tons of customer feedback and problems? So that's one specific area as a head of product for product-led growth I faced. Um, Before coming to the second problem, let me try to answer how we came up with a solution for this.
Yeah.
Um, so apart from making sure that anybody who is part of my team in product engineering and product have KRA that okay, you have to come up with two product features every month, making sure that okay, they deliver on that. We also had quarterly brainstorming sessions within Myntra across the board. Like there will be people we will calling from category heads, private label heads, and across the department. There can be merchandiser, there can be UX designer, there can be a CRM manager, there can be a customer support manager, and all the departments are invited in this quorum. And let's say there are 40 people who turned up. We distribute them across 5 groups of 8 people each. And in this session, we will say, okay, this quarterly, we will focus on one single metrics, let's say return reduction, or let's say gross margin improvement. And or just simple as we should increase the usage of coupons. We will come up with one primary statement, show certain data points for how has been the trend over, let's say, last 6 months or an year, and ask this group to come up with their three. They can write as many as possible product features, but each group will be expected to come up and present 3 ideas. So let's say there are these 5 groups of 8 people each. Each of them will be given half an hour to experiment, debate, and then everybody will come up and present their top 3 ideas, and there will be a common voting on them. So that gave us a good backlog of what people are thinking. Second, different departments felt like they have a say in this process of features being developed. And third advantage was that, well, let's say, whenever I needed their help, they were there to help me. That okay, because a lot of time PMs have to spend time in coordination, getting that consent across department, getting that feature rolled out. So that meeting actually helped, and brainstorm session helped, because he said, okay, this was part of your group only, So
Absolutely. I understand the struggle there.
yeah, you can relate to it. So that was a growth hack within human emotions, I would say,
Yes.
that people will come and support us when we need them to, let's say, push a product feature out. Another one was that every 6 months, we would have these contests within different MBA and engineering colleges, where we'll write down a specific case study, give certain data points, and ask for specific inputs from new college students. Like what, and they also have to come back with a solution in a very hypothesis-driven way, backed by either qualitative research or quantitative research. We expect that okay, they will give more qualitative data. So they have to conduct a survey within their friends and family, students of minimum sample size, and then back their hypothesis that maybe something Myntra should do for College Fest. And they have to come up with a total addressable market and what will be the broad positioning and solutioning of it. So every 6 months, we would do this to improve and get certain general feedback on the backlog. Then there were annually also within Myntra, there were certain events which happened where I mean, that only I have seen at Myntra, where some customers were invited. Um, Key customers across different cohorts of customers were invited to Myntra to come join, give feedback. People in the company can ask them question. It was all paid trips for those customers, but for us, it was a good way to get feedback. And fourth one was every time there was a batch of freshers joining him, new joiners, team will go with the help of UX research and try to get some feedback, general feedback. An interesting example there on which we tried to solve was um, so a person joined in and she said, okay, you use always show foreign models in your cataloging, and the red color which looks very well on that person may not look so well on a person of Indian skin tone or Indian height. So you have models who are like 5'8", 5'9", but Indian women would be probably 5'2", and on an average, and it doesn't suit me. So a midi becomes a maxi for me. Or a red color on a fair skin will look very different from, let's say, color on a more duskier skin tone. So how do we solve for this? And ultimately, she was saying I had to return that, and that's why I have so many returns, and I get stinker that okay, I'm returning so much. But that's an example of which came in during the conversations when we were interacting with new joiners at Myntra, and we built certain features over a period of time to solve this problem. We are using AI where we can superimpose a garment on the same garment on a person of different skin tone. Cataloging team was not allowing. We had historical evidence that and data points that if we use a model of Indian origin, the conversion rate and sell-through rates go down. So we cannot take that path. But we said, okay, can we have another solution where one of the imagery is AI generated? Yeah, another problem was that, okay, if we manually try to shoot on two different models, the cost of cataloging will go up. So then we came up with a solution that can we build a certain AI based for certain categories where we superimpose the product on a different skin tone person, more Indianized version. So yeah, that's an example. Sorry, I digressed a little bit, but I think the question was that, okay, how do we keep coming up with certain ideas and all. So these are the 3 or 4 methods which we use in my team to have a healthy backlog of product experiments. Going back to the question that what other challenges. So I think the other challenge during product-led growth approach was which was more behavioral or I would say psychological. Um, so when I joined and in a large organization like Myntra, you have PMs for each verticals typically. Somebody is responsible for checkout, payments, PDP, search experience. Somebody is responsible for homepage and list page experience. My team was responsible for end-to-end customer journey from the homepage to, let's say, the return order, etc. So anything which I have to do, it actually will fall up in their realm. So if I have to make changes in product page, there's already a PM for that. If I have to make changes in order flow in the reverse pickup, there's already a PM for that, and they have their own roadmap. So that was another challenge. That okay, how do I convince them that okay, hey, this is a feature which I want to build in your let's say, you would understand, like there are verticals, PMs in each and they have their own responsibilities, and they say, okay, no, this is my area, you cannot make this change, I already have planned certain features around this. So managing that expectations from them that hey, allow me to run this experiment, although we had our own engineering UX team, but still it was very difficult to or I would say it was not easy to convince people that okay, hey, let me come and experiment in your area, which is your product charter, and I am going to build this feature in your product stream and evaluate on this metrics. So how we solved for that, it was a mix of let's say pacifying human emotions that okay, no, it's your area, you get the first right of refusal, you we start publishing our experiments plan much in advance, start inviting them that okay, whenever we are going for a feedback session, we will invite those PMs in those meetings that okay, you have the right to come and add any metrics which we may not be already including in our experiment. So we publish that deck. They can comment on that deck within 2 weeks of time, and then then they have the first right of refusal. So and this is something which we learned from our trip to Bay Area and Pinterest specifically, John Egan. So he said, okay, this is something which they follow as well, that the product area owners have the first right to refuse, but they have to commit that they will launch that feature in the next 5 weeks. So similarly, we followed it. Okay, if the product owner says, okay, yeah, you have the first right, but if you launch that feature in next 5 weeks, yes, you go ahead and pick that feature. But if you don't, then my team will go ahead and plan in my roadmap. So these are some of the tricks which we used to, let's say, handle the second problem of managing human emotions, their ego, and allowing us to experiment in their product charters.
Wow. Wow. So this experience of yours not just has been a like an insightful conversation for me, but I think everyone who is watching this show. Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. So Ankit, in your opinion, what is the future of online retail and fintech, and how do you see this industry is evolving around over next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's more theoretical, I would say. But based on my experience in the recent past and what everybody is also seeing, how the company is changing, whether it's retail or fintech, there is a lot of focus on bottom line improvements. Um, so 1.5, 2 years back, there was easy availability of cheap money, and everything was growth focused. Now, companies are focusing a lot more on how to have better profit. In some case, they said, okay, we don't want growth, just be more profitable. So even now, if you see back in 2017, when the last time it came, the situation similar to this arrived, it was all about people would say profitable growth, or so that was the term people use. Now I'm hearing more about forget about growth, only focus on profitability. So now this time it's different. I mean, I have seen different journeys, 2008, 2017, and now this time, and I can really make a difference between how things are changing this time. Um, so that's one theme which I don't know for how long this will last this time, this journey or this phase. But right now, one thing is for sure, for any industry, whether it's fintech or retail, it's about bottom line before the top line. And how companies are going to handle, or what will be the manifestation of this across, whether it's retail. Let's take retail first. So for example, there are certain things people expected to work in that way. For example, e-commerce in 2012, 2013, when people were still shifting from offline to online, it was people had to really pitch that, okay, why should you adopt online? So it was about the convenience of being at home. You can get 5 different variations. Assortment was much bigger online. You can have any payment method. You can try and buy. And then obviously there were pricing offers and discounts. And among this pricing and offers was a dominant reason that people would move from online to online. And people over a period of time, let's say last 6, 7 years, are used to those benefits. They expect that online will have lower prices, faster delivery, no question asked returns. Kind of people are spoiled with that behavior.
That's a standard that most of the online stores have set for the user.
Correct. But because the situation has changed, I feel that situation is also turning a little bit. So, for example, Myntra, Amazon, Ajio, everywhere you will see people are being asked, or at least communicated, when they return a lot. It's a massive cost for any fashion or non-fashion company. So the return windows are shrinking. Like people when had 30-day return window for certain products, you will see 3 days, 5 days, 7 days,
Yes.
15 days across company and categories. That will change. Every Earlier it used to be 30-day flat for all categories, right? In Myntra or on you will see different product categories have different window of returning. Then the other is if you return too much, you will be asked to pay a fee because then the cost equation doesn't work out for the company.
Correct.
So that also I'm sure people are observing. Um, then third is obviously the delivery timelines. Um, and if you take an example of pharmacy or specifically in medicine as well, people were getting like 3 hour delivery, 4 hours delivery, same day delivery, and for no extra cost, no minimum basket size. So companies are experimenting there. They initially they put in a higher basket threshold. Now they have removed that 2 3 hour window, or even Zeptos and all are not no longer talking about 10 minutes deliveries, because all these things came at a cost. It was good to acquire customers at certain time, but from a profitability perspective, they are very challenging. Uh,
Correct.
our average order value are not like UAE or US. We still are, we customers pay in Indian rupees and not in dollars, and they are not used to, let's say, paying a value for that services. Um, in an average American, you will always pay 10% tip, etc. That's not so common in India. Forget about Bangalore, but people are not used to paying for additional benefits or services. Like they consider that that's by default. So that's a major shift which is happening um, in retail or overall e-commerce. I'm trying to give a very broad, I know, answer, but because the question is also a little broad and theoretical, that's why I'm giving my personal views there. Second is whether it's fintech or retail, there will be a lot of more partnerships,
Hmm.
um, and specifically in the stream of monetization. So monetization, you would see, has become very important, not just for, let's say, apps like ShareChat, etc., but even for commerce companies, Myntra, Flipkart. Everybody is learning from Amazon that okay, you can monetize by selling ads and real estate. So that's definitely one theme that okay, they're trying to generate one additional income source. Whether you will start seeing more ads on YouTube, you will start seeing more prompts to go to premium. You will see more hard sell on urban company to switch to their subscription models. So that's another change which will happen because people are more focusing on bottom line.
Correct.
And a related manifestation of that is partnerships. So people are more open that okay, because it requires a lot of coordination, effort, negotiation. People were not okay. So for example, Swiggy order page or Myntra's order page was always meant for internal things. Now the order page for Swiggy is up for grab. Like Myntra is selling credit cards for. I remember it was
Yes.
not allowed, which was because they are not related, right? Why would you try to see an ad of Citibank on an order confirmation page? But the position itself has changed, so you're not allowed to show that ad. It used to be the last thing on that page. Now it's like in the first fold itself. Similarly, on Swiggy, you will see initially on the order waiting screen, there would be maybe a one ad, and that would be for Swiggy to play a game or something. Now you will see 3 4 long ads, one for credit card, one from another company, Tootsie, and so by default, companies are falling back to earn money by
Hmm.
partnerships. So similarly, on Tootsie, maybe you get an ad for Swiggy because they are getting some visible eyeballs for their products. And that will be not just to let's say real estate on online, but also go a little deeper integration. So for example, fintech companies, instead of building their own tech and systems for, let's say, credit, for example, um, when they give loans, they don't necessarily own the entire underwriting part or scoring of the user. They partner with certain third party who take care of underwriting. Same for Paytm, right? So all their credit loans, etc., are powered by certain NBFCs or banks. So they are not taking, they are still got the eyeballs, they got the users on their platform, but they are trying to use integration and core features of a bank or NBFC to give credit. So that is also something which you will see increasingly happen. And as a result, there are these pockets of expertise. So banks have expertise in scoring, identifying whom they should give, how much they should give, etc. Similarly, NBFC have certain data points which they have developed over a period of time, and they will own that USP. But and Paytm has a USP of having a lot of merchants, lot of users, millions of users. Same for PhonePe. So everybody has got their own skill set, and they will let other have let's say focus on core things. So earlier it was like I will build end to end. I will build an scoring engine. I will give the credit. I will raise funds for that. Now that is changing and probably will be the theme that people will focus on one specific area, do it well, and let others do and partner with them those who do their job well. So, for example, it may be Muthoot Finance who give gold loans. Suddenly, you may start seeing that people are opting for gold loans, but they Paytm is not giving, but they're partnering with Muthoot Finance, for example. Or suddenly, somebody who is a B2B and a driver may start getting ads for from Bajaj Finance to take a vehicle loan. So you will see that happening in the next coming years, and it may not even take 5 to 10 years. It may be happening within 1 to 2 years itself. So that's my thought process on this aspect specifically.
Correct. Yes, yes, that's where it makes sense. Absolutely. All
Yeah,
right.
sorry for the long answer. It may have been a little theoretical, but yeah, I think I tried to keep open-ended as well.
It was pretty insightful, absolutely. Okay. Okay, so Ankit, how do you approach the process of search, personalization, and recommendation when building data products? And what tools or technologies do you find most effective in this area?
Uh, um, well, this is and yeah, interesting and feel, but I will try to keep them separate.
Yeah.
I also tell my rationale for them: search, personalization, and recommendations. Most of the companies they will club them together and start and use in one sentence, but they are very different. And I tell you how and why. So, for example, again, take an example of Myntra. So, for example, search. What search does is, or if I talk about improvement in search,
Mhm.
I'll think about if the person is typing, thinking about searching like white shirts, right? So they can type WHIT, WHITS, no space and shirt, or without space, white shirts, with shirts, and then the system should be able to recognize the person is talking about white shirts and then give back results from the catalog, which are exactly like white solid shirts, white shirts with
Mhm.
polka dots, white shirts with, let's say, Chinese collar, Mandarin collar, white formal shirts, casual shirts, floral design, etc., etc. But they should have white. They should also be able to, let's say, auto suggest. Are you looking for white shirts for men, or are you looking for boys, or are you looking for women? Or maybe further down, are you looking for size in L, etc. So all these problems are related to search. First, I should be able to understand what's your context and auto suggest to maybe correct certain things or improve certain things. And second is I should be able to fetch from my database, which is ever increasing, the exact fight shirts and specifically all the related things. As I said, polka dots, floral shirts, maybe they have white color polka dots and it's a black shirt, right? So that is specifically search ka one aspect. The other aspect is maybe people are not typing it, maybe just speaking it to their Alexa device, or sometimes they are speaking to a tiny microphone in your app which you have given. So how to convert the text into search based linguistics, So that's another problem statement in search. Another one, which is a separate domain, for example, music apps like Ghana. People may think in Hindi, but type in English.
Yeah.
So think about a song like Chala Jata Hu, Kishore Kumar song.
Yeah.
Now, it can be written in so different ways. Chala Jata Hu, HOON, HUN, HU only. Jata may should have double A or single A, and so many variants. People may skip certain spaces, etc. So solving for these specific problems all come under search.
Right.
And it's very different from, let's say, personalizing it. Tell you how. So for example, when you start with white shirts, right? Now when you press enter and there are a bunch of white shirts, how I show it to you and how I rank it to you comes under personalization. Sure. So I know that, okay, you are interested in Levi's and Lee price range, but you are not interested in, let's say, Hugo Boss or Anthony Morato. When I am able to show Levi's and Lee results on top versus Hugo Boss or Anthony Morato, that comes under personalization. And that's a very different problem to solve from, let's say, coming up with results. So first is I should be able to get all the relevant results. And second is more about ranking them. So because your past data suggests, or in popular in your area is Levi's Lee, not Anthony Morato or Hugo Boss, I should be able to show white shirts on top from Levi's and Lee versus Hugo Boss. Similarly, I should know that historically, you have always bought M or L size. So I should prioritize those results who are M and L over, let's say, small, double small, or double XL, etc. So that is a personalization problem. So hence these are two different problems, and usually there are different teams who work on these specific problems, and technology used for them is also very different. Then there can be, I mean, I can give a little summary about recommendations as well. Now, recommendation itself is another topic. So, what kind of songs you like, or this can be simple popular search. So it starts in our personalization journey. We use these terms called n equal to n and n equal to 1. So n equal to n means when you are personalizing things or customizing it for a similar cohort of users. So let's say people all in Bangalore may have a similar taste profile, or you go down and say people living in my postcode may have a certain kind of preferences and taste, because let's say like somebody living in Mumbai in South Kolaba area versus, let's say, Navi Mumbai, and they may have very different buying capacity, right? And hence the results and expectation will also be different. So that we call as n equal to n. When I am customizing my results specifically for the South Mumbai or versus, let's say, Navi Mumbai, or in Bangalore, Indranagar versus, let's say, Hosur. So right, so that is when I call it n equal to n. But n equal to 1 is when we say, okay, I know you as a person. You may be living in, let's say, South Bombay, but you still want a higher discount, low ISP product, or you still want to listen to, let's say, Punjabi song, by even if you're living in South Bombay, right? So that is n equal to 1. And there is an entire journey which an organization and team has to go through while taking this path, from identifying who are those pockets, how many pockets should I have, how will you scale it, and then it's a very different problem when you start to say, okay, you as an individual may have a very different taste and an intent from the person next to you, even if you are sitting in the same postcode. So that's what goes in personalization and recommendation. So for example, at Myntra, I don't know what people notice, but let's say if you search for, let's say, red heels or white shirts, you will get a very different results from the listings in the first 48 products, which you will see, and the product person next to you will see a very different results. That variation may be only 5%, but you will be able to see that, okay, I am personalizing it for you rather than and it's very different from, let's say, even if you have a neighbor or your sister, she may have a very different results. So that takes a massive amount of calculation, strength, Excel, and I don't want to go very deep into there, but these three are very different verticals and very three different problem areas. So first, sorry, I took some more time, but it was important to clarify to the audience that these are very different technologies, and the way to solve them is also very different.
Absolutely,
Uh,
yes.
so and now I'll take a pause and say about certain problems faced in my experience and how we solve for it. So um, I I can take some example from Ghana where I was leading search. And the problem statement was very similar that people think in English, but they type in English. Sorry, think in Hindi or something regional language, but they type in English, right? Chala Jata Hu is an example. There can be so many other songs. You may just maybe remember certain part of the song, which will not be Antara Mukhada. It will be something random line, and you will start typing. Like there are different problems we may have that people would usually in the title chala jata hu is the title, but let's say you have a line within that entire song which you remember and you are searching there, then I should be able to recognize that okay, you are talking about this song, and that particular string, for me it's a string of characters, can appear in many different songs. So I should be able to recognize that you are talking about Chala Jata Hu, Kishore Kumar song. I should be able to give you relevant feedback. Are you talking about this string from Kishore Kumar, or maybe Badshah, or maybe Shan? So yeah, I mean these are some of the problems which I faced during when I was building search for Ghana, and so different solutions. So for example, chala jata hu, and try to solve this in terms of linguistics. We use a phonetics based search, and specifically a Indic language based library, and integrated in Solar, which is the serving um, system for. So what it does is, let's say chala jata hu, uh, but it will sound in a specific way, and that's what we call as a phonetics. That who, and then the phonetics will automatically convert that sound into text, and it will automatically identify which all text will sound similar, hu, whom, hun, and then say okay, the person when they are typing for hu, it will automatically identify all, create a let's say a cloud of keyword which are matching to that. So chala jata hu with a single A, double A, it will automatically create those 10 combinations, and the search will hit with all those 10 combinations instead of just one. So that's one solve which we implemented at Ghana, a phonetics based search to handle all the use cases across India. People may type very differently, and then when they have a very different way of thought process. The second problem which I was talking about was they may have a specific string in the entire song. Kahin to nahi aata ki this string is part of the song, and then they type that. So we started indexing not just the title description but the lyrics as well. Obviously, it increased our technological problems because the index size increased, but the entire lyrics which we get from our partners was also indexed. So if you type something, we will not just be able to search in the title, description, etc., but the entire lyrics, and then throw it back to you. If the result set is very huge, then they will say, okay, we found this string. So first we will say weight. If you find that string in the title, that will be the highest weight. If we find it in let's say the name of the person, let's say Kishore Kumar, that will be the second weight. Third will be find description, and fourth or fifth somehow we will give weightage to lyrics as well. And we try to solve that. Okay, whenever you think about a particular string, we will be able to search in the entire glossary of things and give you results. So yeah, it's a little bit long answer, but yeah, that's why I'm trying to say that search itself is so difficult, and if you start going deeper and deeper, it will give you a lot of new challenges. Then, for example, we try to contextualize the same string, the ranking itself. We would show certain different results in, let's say, Calcutta versus, let's say, Punjab. Maybe there is a Bengali version of the same song that will come on higher ranking in Calcutta in that region versus somebody has sung a Punjabi version of that song that will get a higher ranking in Punjab. So that's the direction which we took to solve this specific search problem in Ghana in one of my experiences in past. Yeah, I'll pause and let you ask certain questions. I realize it looks like a monologue from my side.
No, this sounds, it was very interesting to know a lot about recommendations and searches, which are very different from each other. But here, there are two different problems that we have, but usually, most of the businesses take a similar approach to solve both of them, right? So that is something which you explained. It was very helpful to understand how do we differentiate and what are the actual problem pain points that most of the businesses have when implementing these two use cases. So that was very interesting. Just wanted to know, are there any other sound bites that you would like to share for our audience?
Sure. I mean, I can not a lot, but I think I follow some of the thinkers who have seen and built large scale products. So Shreyas, I follow Lenny's podcast or something, and a newsletter I listen and follow, read through. Um, then there are some communities, let's say, for example, the product folks is a community where I interact with folks or somehow also join their sessions. If you are more into technical product management, there is this newsletter called Byte Go. Um, that's an interesting newsletter. They come up with certain aspects in engineering side and explain it in a very easy to understand. For example, what is a cache technology? What are different kind of caches? How and when to use different kind of caches, etc. So these are some of the things which I follow. Apart from this, I'm very interested in when some speaker talks about more research on human behavior. For example, there's a writer, Neerial, right? He wrote a very famous book. I follow his podcast because he talks more of building products which are habit forming and from a psychological perspective. So that's something which I follow. So I think these are some of the interesting uh, podcast or people can follow and learn more.
Amazing. That was a great talk. Thank
Good.
you.